Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I have filmed a video only because I gave birth to my beautiful daughter who is beside me. She's sleeping. Let's hope that she stays asleep for a while. It is pretty close to feeding time, so I'm gonna try and kind of make this video pretty speedy. I had a daughter, a newborn baby, about a little bit over a month ago. She's gonna be a month and 1 week on Monday. So it's been a struggle to do any videos, and honestly with a newborn baby, like I didn't even think about doing videos or even cross my mind about my YouTube channel or anything like that because I want to focus mainly on her. But now that it's a little bit over a month, I've got into the a good flow of what is expected between me and her and our household and everything. So we kind of have a little routine so I kind of know what is gonna work. So anyways, the reason I wanted to sit down and do this video because I just wanted to talk about my experience of having a newborn baby, like first month of having a new baby. And I just want to point out that this is just my experience and my opinions and like my thoughts, and I don't want to make it seem like that every woman who has a baby is going to feel the same. But I know for me as a new mother, especially the first week or so, even though I know in the back of my mind that I was not the only woman who experienced these feelings and thoughts, it felt like it, and I felt so guilty about feeling these like feelings, and I'm gonna get into more detail of what I'm talking about. So basically I just want to sit down and talk about the first month of being a new mother, because I know for me, like, all I did was YouTube and Google like, why am I feeling this, or is this okay, just all of that kind of stuff. And I just want to sit down and talk about my experience for any of you who are feeling the same and just kind of need some reassurance, because I know that's what I did, is just kind of Googled or watched YouTube videos of other YouTubers who are going through the same thing, who just had babies or have had babies or that kind of stuff, just to be like, okay, I'm not the only person who has felt this way, and I'm not the only person I don't feel alone. And I just want to say that too, for the first week, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to have someone stay with you because you want to be able to do it on your own. Trust me, me and my husband, we wanted to be able to do it on our own for the first night, first week, even the first 2 weeks. We wanted to be able to do it by ourselves, but I just want to say I'm so thankful that his parents were staying with us, because for the first night that she was at home, it was definitely a struggle. And the reason why it was such a struggle for us, and again, it might not be for everybody, but for us, basically, we woke up on a Sunday morning, so early, like 7, 8 in the morning, because his parents were staying with us. We got up, had coffee, that kind of stuff, and I was still pregnant. I just want to point out I was still pregnant, so we were up for that whole day. During that day, I wasn't sure, like, I felt like a peeing sensation, but I didn't pee my pants, but my pants weren't actually wet. I just felt like I peed myself. And so I was like, did my water just break? There was a little bit of mucus and a little bit of like liquid, but it wasn't like this big gush that people talk about or in the movies and TV shows that you see. It's just nothing like that. At least for me, it wasn't. So I was like, did my water break? I'm so confused. I don't know. Should I go to the hospital? Whatever. I tried calling HealthLink, but it just rang and rang. I was like, okay, well, I'll see how it goes. If I start getting contractions, then I'll go to the hospital. And so basically through that whole day, I just went through like as my regular day. My husband had softball so at that night, so we went to softball, and then by the time 12 o'clock rolled around, I was like, you know what, to my husband, I said this, I was like, you know what, I don't feel like something's right. Like I'm really worried that my water did break, and if it did, like, I need to go to the hospital right away. So I called HealthLink again, and I'm not sure, depending on where you live, if you're in Canada, HealthLink is just a link, like a number you call, and there's a 24-hour nurse that you can ask about anything, and they will kind of give you help, whether they think you need to go to a clinic, go to the hospital, if you're okay to stay home, just like anything from a cold to your water breaking. So she asked me a whole bunch of questions, and she's like, you know what, because we're unsure if your water broke, it's better be safe to go, because it had already been about 12 hours since I thought my water had broke. So she's like, go to the hospital just to make sure. So we went to the hospital, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, so it had been 13 hours since my water broke. At that time, I didn't realize it did. I thought it did, but I wasn't 100% sure. So it had been about 13 hours. And when I went into the hospital, they're like, oh yeah, I just want to point out, when I was talking to the nurse, she's like, make sure you just put a pad on in case you leak more. Luckily I did, because when I went to the hospital, they're like, do you have a pad on? I said yes. They're like, have you been bleeding at all? That kind of stuff. I said no. So it had been about 13 hours. They're like, okay, let's get you into I think they call it triage. I'm so bad at remembering words and names of all these like different rooms. So basically it's just the room that they take you in, where it's like just curtains, like different beds and curtains, so they monitor you. If you're not ready to actually go into labor, they either send you home or they keep you in your little curtained section. So she's like, do you want to go to the washroom before we get you set up and just take your blood pressure and that kind of stuff? I was like, yeah, I probably should go to the washroom. So I went to the washroom. She's like, did you wear a pad? I said yes. The nurse that I talked to on the phone told me to put one on, and she asked if I was bleeding at all, and I said no. So she's like, okay, well, because you have the pad. So at this time I had finished going to the washroom, pulled up my pants, about to wash my hands. She's like, okay, well, just make sure you leave the pad on the counter. They're gonna test it to see if my water had broke. And she's like, and she asked if there was any bleeding. I was like, no, there isn't. So as soon as I pulled my pants back down to check to grab the pad, there was a whole bunch of blood. I was like, oh, there's blood now. And so that was like a little scary, because it's like, holy crap, like good thing I came to the hospital, because now I'm bleeding. And that is really scary. So they tested the pad, and sure enough, my water had broke. And the reason they think that my water, or why it didn't feel like this big gush or it didn't like soak my pants, is because sometimes a baby's head, like your water will break, but the head will kind of block it, kind of like a plug. So that's why there was a little bit of gush here and there. Like there was a huge gush. It didn't soak my pants or my anything like that. I just had to change my underwear. But I was like, I don't know if that's just normal or not, because like I said, in the movies, they make it seem like this big gush, like, and it's like soaking wet. And I know that some women experience that, but I didn't. So I was so confused, and people were like, when it breaks, you'll know. And I'm like, no, I really don't know. Like, I think it did, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like it did. But anyway, it did in fact break. So luckily I did go to the hospital, because once your water breaks, that's basically what's protecting your baby from infection and bacteria and anything from getting to them. And if I had waited any longer, it could have been potentially dangerous for me and my baby. So luckily I had gone to the hospital. Because it already had been 12 to 13 hours since my water had broke, I had to, they put me on this medication called oxytocin, and basically what that does is it mimics the hormones that make your body have contractions. And they want to do that because I needed to have the baby as soon as possible, because like I said, after having your water break for a certain amount of hours, there's potential bacteria or infection that can be very dangerous. So they put me on this IV of oxytocin, which started the contractions. And once the contractions started, I was like, oh yeah, like these, I mean, obviously at the start they're very easy, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. But after a certain amount of hours, it was to the point where I wanted to pass out, I wanted to vomit, and because I've had one seizure previous to being pregnant, I was seeing a doctor to monitor that, just to make sure that if it happened again, that I had the proper care to take care of that. So luckily I never had any seizures during pregnancy, and I still haven't, and I've only had one in my life, which happened prior to me being pregnant. So because I was during labor, because I was feeling very like lightheaded and wanting to vomit, and I was like, I was super tired. Like I was already awake for a good 15 to 16 hours already, like straight. Like I didn't get any sleep or anything. I was like awake for 16 hours. And I was like, I just don't want to risk having a seizure. So I ended up having an epidural. And luckily that helped for a while. I was able to rest for about an hour or so, but the epidural for me and most women, it kind of numbs the pain. So you can't feel the pain, but you can still feel pressure. So I was feeling a lot of pressure, and it felt like I needed to push. And they kept telling me, you can't push, you're not ready yet, you're not fully dilated, so you have to wait. Because if you start pushing before your body is ready, that can also like have huge tears down there, and it can be just, again, not good. So eventually it got to a point where I could not stand it anymore. Didn't feel contractions in my stomach, but I was feeling pressure down in the lower areas. And it just felt like I had to push. And eventually I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I need to push. Like my body is telling me that I need to push. So they checked how far I was dilated, and sure enough, I was a little bit past 10 centimeters. So I was ready to push. And after I started pushing, I pushed her out within 20 minutes. And I was like, what the heck? Even the doctors and nurses were like, whoa, like you pushed her out so fast, because I know some people are pushing for hours, and I truly like praise and like my heart goes out to those women who have had labor had to push for a really long time, because I was very fortunate that I was able to push her out in 20 minutes. Like that is crazy, because I know that, and I've heard stories of people who've pushed for hours, and I could not imagine that. And I was very fortunate with the whole birthing process, even though it is very painful and stressful, and you're like worried things are gonna happen, bad things are gonna happen. You're always concerned, like if something goes wrong, you might have to have a C-section. And for me, there's nothing wrong with having a C-section, because I know some women just have to, but for me, that wasn't in my birth plan. I didn't want to do that. Obviously, I would do it if I had to. If it was dangerous to my baby or myself, then I would. But you always like worried that what if I have to have a C-section? Then that's a whole new level of recovering. I can't believe what women's bodies are capable of doing. Like I said, I just can't believe that my body made this. Like she is so precious and beautiful and perfect in my eyes, and I wouldn't change it for anything else, because she's just my perfect little peanut. I just love her so much. I just want to start off with the first day with the baby. So like I'll say the first day of being home. So by then she was she was 1 day old when we brought her home. And I just want to put it out there that help is needed. I am so thankful that my husband's parents were staying with us for the first couple of weeks, because I knew that first night at home was so overwhelming. Not only are you bringing home this newborn baby that you're responsible for, and you're not sure how to take care of it. I mean, obviously you know how to take care of the baby because you do research and you take classes and you know the gist of it, but every baby is different. And I know from my experience of taking classes and just watching YouTube videos and just all that kind of stuff, not every new mother and baby relationship is the same. It's all going to be different. And even though you learn and have all this experience from the classes, it's like when you actually take the baby home, you still are learning. I just want to touch base on breastfeeding because that was a huge struggle for me, which is a struggle for most women who just gave birth. I know when I initially gave birth to her, she was right on my chest, like 2 seconds after, and I think about half hour to an hour later, once they got everything, you know, situated, her cleaned off, all my stitches that I had to get down there done, I was able to breastfeed her. And I was able to get her on so easy. She sucked right away, and I was like, wow, this is so easy. Like, I don't really understand the struggle that people or women go through. I keep saying people. When I say people, I mean women, because obviously only women are the ones that are breastfeeding. But I was like, I just don't understand the struggle. Well, was I wrong about that? Because after the couple of days, so the next day, there's a healthcare nurse that comes to your house and visits and answers any questions, does a check on the baby, kind of checks on you, has any questions. And luckily the nurse that came to my house was a lactation consultant, so she was able to kind of assess how I was breastfeeding her, making sure that she was actually drinking and that kind of stuff. And it seemed like it was good at the time, and I was like, yeah, I think I got this. And they say that if you feel pain breastfeeding, that's not the right latch. So I had to kind of figure out the right way and the right momentum to get her on properly. And it took a while. I think it took about 2.5 weeks until I could actually feel comfortable and happy and feel that bond with her, because on my left breast, on my nipple, I got a huge crack. It was like big, and it was painful and terrifying. And when you're still going through the emotions of your hormones getting back into check, you have all these feelings. And I know for the first week I broke down in tears at least 5 times, like at least once a day, I would say. And I wanted to give up breastfeeding because it was so hard and so painful, especially on this breast because of the crack. It was a huge crack, and it would bleed every once in a while, and if I didn't get the right latch initially, it was so painful. And on some days I tried to avoid feeding her on this one and only feed her on this side, and I didn't want to not feed her on this one at all, because that, if you do feed her, that's how the milk keeps being produced. So I had to make sure that I still fed her on this one, and it was a struggle and painful, and I wanted to give up. I cried so much. It took a while to finally get the right latch and feel comfortable. It's now been a month and a week of having her and breastfeeding, and I now feel very comfortable doing it. I now know the right angles, because there's different positions. You can do the football hold, you can do the crossbody where they're like across here, or the football where they're in your arms here. So I found that the football hold was the best hold for me, that I could get the right latch and it was comfortable and it didn't hurt. And that, I mean, now that she's a month and a week, it's starting to get a little bit harder because she's heavier, she's longer, and my baby is a freaking kicker. She has strong legs, so if I'm feeding her, if there's any pillows or anything behind me, she just kicks and kicks, and sometimes it's really hard to kind of control her. But I just want to say that for anybody who's going through this or about to have a baby and you're really worried about breastfeeding, I just want you to know that it gets better. And I just want to point out one little tip, in my opinion. And I think I had people tell me this, but you never actually take it in until you experience it. And I wish I could go back and be like, that I know what I need to do to make it better, is don't be afraid to push the baby's mouth on. Like, don't be afraid to just shove it. It sounds horrible saying shoving it because you don't want to like obviously hurt the baby, but you have to make sure you get it on fast and the right latch and make sure their mouth is wide open, because if you don't get the right latch, it's painful. So I now know if you just to like shove them on. And I say that in like a very gentle way. Like, you don't want to just like push it on really hard. But I want to just get across that it does get better. And even if it's the first couple of weeks, first couple of weeks, and you're wanting to give up, don't. Because I know, again, the first couple of days to the first week, even to up to 2 weeks, I was like, I don't understand how people say that it's a bonding thing between you and your baby breastfeeding, because I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't know how I can do this for the next 6 months to a year breastfeeding my baby, because this is just awful. I don't feel the connection because it's just painful and not comfortable. And like I said, your hormones are still going through, so you have so many thoughts. Not only are you worried about your new baby that you brought home, making sure that you're feeding them enough, that you're making sure that they're feeling safe. I mainly just wanted to talk about the breastfeeding and just letting anybody who is feeling insecure and worried and scared and wanting to give up for the first couple of weeks, it's like, it gets better. During pregnancy, I got really bad stretch marks. And now that I have given birth to her, now my skin's just really loose and there's a bit of like fat there, but the stretch marks are just awful. They look so like wrinkly and red, and it's kind of, how do I put it? It's just, you don't feel good about yourself after. I know that I am, even though I am, I don't know what the proper word is. I'm like very insecure about it, but I am so blessed with this beautiful baby that I have right here. So it's like, it's worth it, but you kind of go through emotions like, she's slowly waking up and doing sucking motions. She's getting hungry. You're worried about your own body. Like, you're insecure about your body, especially when you just gave birth and you're bleeding a lot and you just had stitches, and you're always concerned about if you're going to get an infection, making sure everything's healing properly. There's just so many emotions. I just want to touch base on this because this has been a struggle for me ever since I gave birth to her. You just gave birth to a beautiful baby. You should not care what your body looks like, because I know for me, when I look in the mirror, I have good days and bad days. I look in the mirror and be like, wow, like my body looks really good for having a 1-month-old baby. And then there's days where I look in the mirror and be like, what has happened to my body? Like, is it gonna get better? I feel ashamed of the way it looks. And again, that's another thing I feel guilty about. It's like when I look in the mirror and I'm like, my body looks awful and I'm embarrassed of the way it looks right now. And I feel so guilty because it's like my body had to do that to give birth to this beautiful baby and house this baby in my belly. And it's going to take a while for your body to get back to normal. And when I look at Instagram is like the worst thing to be looking at when you just had a baby, especially when you see all the posts of other Instagrammers and like famous people or like well-known people posting their after birth body with their new baby, and it's like been a month and they're super skinny and it looks like they have the perfect normal life with their baby, and it's like, how are they doing that? And I just want to say it's not realistic, at least in my opinion. But I'm just like, how do you have time to put makeup on? Because I know I don't. The most I'm able to do is mascara, and that's if I have a lucky chance to do that. Now that she's a month and a week old, it's getting a little bit easier because I kind of know when I need to feed her, how long I kind of have to shower, get ready. But even so, I still don't have time to put a full face of makeup on. And I'm like, how are these Instagrammers doing that? And I just want to point out that that's not realistic. Some of these people on Instagram probably are able to afford to have people to do makeup. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with these Instagrammers that are posting these photos, because every person who just gave birth wants to feel beautiful. And if that's the way, like, I know I wish I could put a full face of makeup on and a cute outfit and put a cute outfit on my baby and go walking and take photos, but it's not realistic for everybody. And I know when I look at those photos, I'm like, how are they doing that? Like, how's it possible? Oh my god, I just got a foot cramp. How are they doing that? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, and I feel awful about myself because it's like, why can't I be like that? But Instagram, to an extent, is so fake. And I'm not saying that I'm not one of them, because I know I've posted photos that are filtered and that kind of stuff. I've never used Facetune or anything like that. I don't really know how to use Facetune, to be honest, but I use filters. Like, if I take a photo with Snapchat with the filters that they have, and I post it, and it makes my skin or my body or whatever looks better, but it's not realistic. And I just also want to point that out to any woman or any person, that it's not realistic, and it takes a while for your body to get back into track. Okay, so I'm gonna finish this video right now because there was a million things I wanted to talk about, and I think I kind of blabbered on. I don't know how long this video is gonna be, but I just want to say thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting my channel. I know it's been a while since I posted a video, but when you have a baby, it's kind of hard to do that for the first month, because you just want to spend time with them. You also want to get as much sleep as possible. But I just want to say thank you, and I hope this video helps some of you out there, and I hope you like this video. I'm just gonna pick up my little baby here, and she's sleeping. She's been sleeping for a really long time. Hi, little baby. I know. Oh, jeez. She's a little squirmer. Sometimes that happens, but... Jerry, you want to say hi? This is my beautiful daughter. She's 1 month and 1 week old, and her name is Mazikeen. And she's just sleeping. I really thought she would have woke up by now, but this is her, my little peanut. Okay. Alright guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped you out. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel. You'll probably see more videos about my day-to-day life with a new baby when it comes to morning routines, prepping food, just realistic emotions about how you feel. So please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my videos, and make sure to click the little bell notification so you get all the notifications of videos I've posted. Until next time, I'll see you guys soon.